So this right here is fascinating, y'all. I don't know how many of you remember, but we covered a story about how the ethical hacker group Anonymous, they released a video basically warning, like, it's on now, bitch, talking to the Trump regime. And I remember covering that. We were speculating, like, well, what are they going to do? Well, we now know at least one of the things that they're doing. Global X, the company doing many deportation flights for ICE, has been hacked. Hackers claim to have stolen flight manifest information and flight details, and have also defaced the website. So when you went to the website, it would say this: Anonymous, Operation Dreadnought. Anonymous has decided to enforce the judge's order since you and your sycophant staff ignore lawful orders that go against your fascist plans. You lose again, Donnie. A federal judge ruled on May 1st, 2025, that the Trump administration's invocation of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to remove alleged members of the Venezuelan gang from this country is unlawful. The president cannot summarily declare that a foreign nation or government has threatened or perpetrated an invasion or predatory incursion of the United States, followed by the identification of the alien enemies subject to detention or removal. The proclamation makes no reference to and in no manner suggests that a threat exists of an organized, armed group of individuals entering the United States in the direction of Venezuela to conquer the country or assume control over a portion of the nation. Thus, the proclamation's language cannot be read as describing conduct that falls within the meaning of invasion for purposes of the AEA. Allowing the president to unilaterally define the conditions when he may invoke the AEA and then summarily declare that those conditions exist would remove all limitations to the executive branch's authority under the AEA and would strip the courts of their traditional role of interpreting congressional statutes to determine whether a government official has exceeded the statute's scope. The law does not support such a position. That was the Trump-appointed federal U.S. District Judge Fernandez Rodriguez. And then they go on to say, we are anonymous, we are legion, we do not forgive, we do not forget, expect us. So they hacked the airline or the airline company that's doing a lot of the deportations. So there's an article here on this as well about how they were hacked. Hackers have targeted Global X Air, one of the main airlines the Trump administration is using as part of its deportation efforts, and stolen what they say are the flight records and passenger manifests of all its flights, including those for deportation, 404 Media has learned. So, because of what they're doing, we also will get, you know how we don't know a lot of the people who were sent to the slave labor gulag concentration camp in El Salvador? We didn't know all of them. They're trying to get us the names of all the people who were sent. The data which the hackers contacted 404 Media and other journalists about unprompted could provide granular insight into who exactly has been deported on Global X flights, when, and to where, with Global X being the charter company that facilitated the deportation of hundreds of Venezuelans to El Salvador. And then they go on to quote from the piece. The hacker says the data includes flight records and passenger lists. The hacker sent 404 Media a copy of the data, which is sorted into folders dated every day from January 19th through May 1st. 404 Media cross-checked known information about ICE deportation flights that come from official and confirmable sources with information contained on the flight manifest and flight details obtained by the hacker. Information about Kilmar Abrego Garcia's flight is in the hack data. For example, the hackers obtained what appears to be detailed flight information about Global X flights 6143, 6145, and 6122 that left from Harlingen, Texas's Valley International Airport on March 15th. These flights are at the center of a class action lawsuit filed by 5 pseudonymous Venezuelan men against the Trump administration, which eventually went to the Supreme Court, and which took off during and immediately following a court proceeding in which their lawyers were trying to get a restraining order to prevent the flights from taking off. During a district court proceeding in Washington, D.C., the federal government argued that it had no flight information to share with the court. Quote, the government surprisingly represented that it still had no flight details to share during the hearing. The judge's opinion in the case reads, when pressed, government counsel stated that the operation details he had learned during the recess raised potential national security issues, so they could not be shared while the public and press listened. So that's just a lie. Let's be clear about what they're doing here. They are saying the law is clear. The courts have ruled. You are flagrantly violating not just one court order, multiple court orders. And so what they're saying is, if nobody's going to make you comply, we're going to do that. We're going to try to do that. All the shit that you're trying to keep secret, it's all coming to light. We got all the information. We're going to give all the information to the media. We're going to learn about all these innocent people that you sent to this concentration camp. And we're not going to take it standing down. Guys, I got to be honest, I don't know how anybody can look at this and disagree. I don't get it. Like, we talk about this all the time, right? But, like, nobody does anything. When something is clearly illegal, clearly unconstitutional, clearly immoral, clearly unethical, and nobody does anything about it, What kind of a fucking society are we living in? Right? And the courts don't really have an enforcement mechanism, but this is like a backdoor enforcement mechanism, right? Imagine, for example, they could, in the future, do some sort of cyber attack on the entire network that Global X flies on, and make it so that the planes can't take off at all, right?
Meet the new standard in sleep. This is Pod 4 Ultra. It's not a bed, it's a revolution in the sleep.
This honestly, it reminds me of Noam Chomsky talked about when is it justified to do, for example, say property violence. And he said, you can imagine a scenario where there's a shipment of weapons that are about to be sent to Vietnam that we know, based on reporting and the facts on the ground, these weapons are going to be used to massacre innocent landless peasants. And what Chomsky says is, if somebody were to go into the weapons depot before the shipment goes out, and the building's empty, nobody gets hurt, and they were to destroy the weapons, he said that's an example of ethical property violence, where technically you're committing a crime because you are, whatever, messing up the property, but it is clearly the morally correct thing to do. It is clearly the just thing to do. It is clearly like you actually have more concern for the law and for justice and for reason. If you say, we're going to take all these weapons which are about to be used to massacre innocent people and we're going to fucking throw them in the ocean, right? Or we're going to destroy the guns and leave the wreckage sitting there. And that's one of those things, it's like in philosophy class you would talk about this. Is it justified to, you don't have any money, your kid is really sick, the medicine's sitting right there,